Okay, good evening, everybody. And so my name is Joy, like the one introduced. I'm responsible for LUMENIS in Asia Pacific. And LUMENIS probably, is not a very familiar name for you. And but let me give you a few stories. And LUMENIS, the first company, was born, right after, like 5 years later, after laser invention. The laser was invented in the lab, and in 1960, 5 years later. But the funny story is that at that time, we have no idea how we can use laser. We just make one laser, like, super big, and I have no idea how to use it. And after, another 6 years, in 1971, we finally found out the new application for laser. We introduced the first laser for ophthalmology. You'll be surprised, the first laser in medical is not in cosmetic, in ophthalmology, back to 1971. Because it's very easy for the scientists to think about the new application, because eyeball is optic, laser is optic, so make the first laser for ophthalmology. So right now, ophthalmology is become like a gold standard, in many applications. And again, 5 years later again, and LUMENIS made the first CO2 laser for surgical application. And but this grows very fast. It's like a booming market. So right now, many lasers have been introduced in the market for cosmetic application. And most advanced laser has been used for cosmetic. And today we can introduce the brand new laser for cosmetic market. And before I turn over to Goldman, I'd like to introduce him a little bit. You may heard about IPL or photo rejuvenation. It's very popular here in Philippines. But who invented?
Hi, thank you very much. Good evening. We are very glad to be here. We see a lot of familiar faces here. I've been working in the past 5 years, so I'm always happy to come here. Together with me, Mr. Jai from LUMENIS, the president of Asia Pacific, and Dr. Mitchel from Manila. I'll be starting with a few brief slides of updates, remind everyone who this is. So, LUMENIS basically is a global leader on medical laser based on light technology.
Our guest speaker this evening is a graduate of Boston University and Stanford University Medical School. Board certified by both American Academy of Dermatology and American Board of Cosmetic Surgery. He has successful practice and hospital affiliations in Scripps Memorial Hospital in La Jolla, California. He is renowned for his pioneering research on multiple laser techniques, skin rejuvenation, and vein therapy. He authored 21 textbooks and more than 300 peer-reviewed publications. He mastered and is the inventor of the state-of-the-art IPL and laser technology. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Mitchel P. Goldman.
It's really nice to be here. As many of you know, this is my third visit to the Philippines. I first came about 15 years ago, and I introduced the ultra-cool CO2 laser at San Tomas Hospital. which really was for improvement of scars and rejuvenation. I then came about 10 years ago, and I introduced the Quantum, the first premier intense pulse light. And now I'm here to introduce 3 new lasers. One is the new luminous fractional CO2, the AccuPulse, which is the next generation from UltraPulse. The M22, which is the next generation from Quantum. And then the LightShear Duet, which is the next generation from LightShear. Today I had the privilege of being at a number of different hospitals, and you guys have one of the best laser centers and the best hospitals that I've seen. And so there's no reason why you shouldn't also have the best equipment, because you certainly have the nicest and prettiest doctors. So I want to start off by talking about photo damage. We all know that this is a very difficult thing to talk about, because every company is trying to sell everyone all of these miracle lasers that don't hurt, have no downtime, and the patients just have to pay money and they're going to walk out and be more beautiful. But that really doesn't happen. And we see that most of the non-invasive machines really don't do the job, and patients really are not very happy. And it takes more of the minimally invasive machines to really do the job. The CO2 laser really remains the gold standard for resurfacing. Unfortunately, it has the long recovery times. But we recently learned that if we can fractionate the CO2 laser, we can continue it being the gold standard, but with very little downtime. And that's been a real resurgence for us. What fractional photothermolysis means is that instead of destroying 100% of the epidermis, we destroy a percentage of it. And the percentage is different depending on which type of laser you're using. It turns out that for Asian skin, it's probably better to not do more than 15% at any one time. If we try to ablate or fractionate more than 15%, we get into more problems with post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, which is particularly prominent in Asian skin, no matter how dark or light the Asian skin is. It's due to the melanocytic hypersensitivity. Now, John Voorhees and his group proved to us that you need to have some sort of an ablative damage in order to produce collagen formation. So that by the non-ablative ways really did not produce enough damage in order to affect collagen production. So fractionated CO2 laser resurfacing gives you the best efficacy, usually in 1 or at the most 2 treatments, and it's very predictable. You don't have to guess that only 30% of the patients are going to have a good result. Almost every single patient has a very good result. And then I was always asked about tightening the skin. It's actually the best and most uniform way to tighten the skin. Because if we're vaporizing 15% of the skin, which is typical, and in the United States we even do a little bit more, that's a tightening effect. Because you're putting holes in the skin, which causes the rest of the skin to tighten. Another advantage, mostly for Caucasians, is we minimize skin cancer changes. Now there's a whole host of fractionated lasers that are on the market, and there's many more that aren't even listed here. Zoe Dralos just came out with a new textbook, and I actually have a chapter in it on fractionated lasers, and it goes through each one. But you'll see one difference, and the difference is the LUMENIS active and deep FX are the highest power of the lasers. You also have erbium YAG lasers, which are fractionated. And some of these are very nice lasers, but the problem is, for any of you that have used the erbium YAG, even the ones that have a little bit of coagulation, there's really quite a lot of bleeding. And in this day and age, we really don't want to have a lot of bleeding in our offices for fear of transmission of many different diseases. So when we look at the different lasers, we can see that the UltraPulse, or the CO2 lasers, like the AccuPulse, are really best for doing the vaporization in a fractionated form, because they leave back this area of minimally damaged or non-specific thermal damage, and it's this area here which causes neocollagenesis to occur, unlike erbium lasers, which really don't leave back a lot of non-specific thermal damage. These were some of my, this is one patient in a paper that we did a number of years ago with the ultrapulse CO2 showing that the results are long-term. Now, we don't have 5 and 10-year experience with the fractionated resurfacings, but there's no reason to believe that the resurfacing, that the CO2 resurfacing we do fractionated is also going to have really good long-term results.